had a discussion about guys that you would or would not draft. And so there's several names for the Cowboys. You know, we always try and kind of talk about these guys and who that, you know. And I thought it was a really good discussion because I tried to put these guys in some tough spots at who they would and who they would not take.
Sounds like a good podcast over there.
We're trying. We're trying. And then Bobby and I I think Bobby and I are taping Love of the Star tonight. So if you want to get questions to me as well. So anyway, okay, I mentioned that, and I always try and tie the draft coverage and stuff into what the Cowboys are doing. And this comes from Charles McDonald at Yahoo Sports. And he put the tiers, like the tier of where certain players, and he gave the name to each tier. And what I want to do is I want to go through the tier, but I want to go through the name that the Cowboys could potentially end up with.
Let's do it. I love tiering.
Okay. I don't want to cry tier. No tears.
No, it won't be the salty ones. No.
But Charles runs through 3 different tiers of players that for these college players, and it's off his top 50 list. So he's got 50 players, but I'm going to make it Cowboys specific of guys that potentially could be there for the Cowboys. And I'll tell you what tier, and we can kind of talk them through a little bit. His number 1 tier that he has, Charles McDonald from Yahoo, tier number 1, franchise cornerstone players.
I'll take one.
Okay. At number 5, Texas running back Bijan Robinson.
Oh,
is his 5th player in this group. And that has listed as the franchise cornerstone type of player. So we've talked a bunch about Robinson. Why not? You know, and that's one of those things. I'd be real interested if the Cowboys actually did that. I'd be interested if he actually did get to the Cowboys, but if there's a possibility there, I'm fascinated to see if they would do it or not. There's a side of me that they have drafted the best guy on their board. I think the player would be the best guy on their board. So I don't.
It'd be hard for him not to be, man.
Yeah, that's the only reason. If he is their best player on their board when they get to 26, then I could see them taking him.
What do you think I said about the running back last night? That
I don't disagree with you. I really don't.
The average running back gives you 90% of what the best running back does. So if he's the best player on the board, I respect your scoring system and the traits that he has and the plays that he makes.
Yeah.
But I would have a different system.
Yeah, see,
I would adjust the system.
Yeah,
go on, Mom. Take Bijan Robinson.
Well, that's where I think that, to me, that's why I don't. They might not do it.
Yeah,
there might be some adjustments to what you're talking about. It's the only thing about it, I would fight for the kid, but I would understand if they went another direction. I really would. My argument would be, guys, if he's the best player on the board, then we shouldn't have put him up there.
Yeah.
Like why even have a guy up there?
Why have him in that spot? I think I always said this about draft boards. Don't window dress your board. If you're putting quarterbacks up there just because they're quarterbacks, and you're like, oh no, this guy. Well, the league tells me that this Will Levis is a top 10 quarterback, and you put him there in the top 10, but you really don't believe that. That's window dressing your board. Because what happens if Will Levis falls out of the top 10 and now he's sitting there looking at you at 26?
You going to take him?
Let me ask you this, and I'll ask you this question. Would you rather take a quarterback like Will Levis at 26 or Bijan Robinson?
Oh, a quarterback, absolutely.
Okay. So you would have no problem then if Will Levis or Richardson or one of those guys, if you graded him in the first round, you would have no problem if he got to 26 drafting him there.
I would love that. You know, we don't know how Dak's negotiation is going to go, and if we can get this guy in a game or two, and Dak usually misses a game or two, and he plays well, now we have the kind of trade chip. You know, or your starter. Yeah, the value there is just insane, and I'm just worried about running backs getting hurt. You know, I'm trying to solve the running game with 2 or 3 different guys. Oh no, not one guy I rely on every Sunday.
See, that's with Robinson and Pollard. I mean, you'd have the they would have these stories about, oh, what a combination of backs, da-da-da-da-da.
Well, he could immediately be your best offensive player.
He could. He very well could. All right, that's the one guy that the Cowboys could be associated with. Tier 2 is early starters, attainable Pro Bowl upside. Okay. TCU wide receiver, Quentin Johnston.
Like it.
I'd love that pick. Yeah.
Minnesota center, John Michael Smits, who is a favorite of Wolchuk's, who could play guard, could play center, really a mobile, athletic guy.
Love him. He's my favorite lineman, period, in the entire draft.
Number 17 would be edge rusher Lucas Van Ness. We talked about Dan Quinn and those guys going to work out. He was a player we had on the show today that was why or why not. And it seemed like there was more than why on him. Georgia tight end, and this is he's the number 20th on McDonald's list, is Georgia tight end Darnell Washington, the 6'7", 264-pound tight end from Georgia, as a tier 2 early starter, attainable Pro Bowl upside.
Is he going to crush in the run game?
Yeah, he's a tackle that's tight end
blocker.
Catch.
Yeah. You know, like Kyle actually asked us on the draft show today, out of these guys, who's going to help your run game the most? And he started naming running backs, and eventually he got to Darnell Washington. But immediately I thought, at 26, if you really want to help your running game, and you want a tight end, maybe that's the guy you pick, because he moves people. He's an outstanding blocker, but he's also kind of just a freak athlete with his size that he is intriguing as a pass-catching option. He ran well. He doesn't look fast when you watch him. He's kind of a lumbering guy.
He's a 270-pound guy that runs okay, but when you look at like his testing numbers when it comes to lateral stuff, it's one of the short shuttle, the 20-yard shuttle. He's like a 4.04, which is almost
the combo.
It's like defensive back shuttle is for a man that's 264 pounds. Okay, another guy that's kind of always tagged to the Cowboys is Osiris Torrance, the guard from Florida. He's number 21. Number 29, here's a guy that I think the Cowboys really, really do like, and this could be the pick. And this could be a guard-center combination. Steve Avila from TCU, 6'4", 332 pounds.
Yeah,
if you're going to play Tyler Smith at left tackle and don't even think about it, this is probably the guy you want to take at 26.
It's a great year to need a left guard who could also transition to center in 1 year.
Yeah.
It sounds like there's 2 of them that are going to be around.
Absolutely. Yeah.
That's awesome.
Okay, now we're to tier 3 as we finish this thing up. These are solid starters, rotational players, realistic developmental projects. Mozzie Smith from Michigan
D-tackle.
defensive tackle. We talked about him a bunch. Arkansas linebacker Drew Sanders, probably the best linebacker in the draft. Pittsburgh's Kalijah Cansey, the defensive tackle. And this is when we get into Dalton Kincaid. Ooh. He has him as a solid starter, rotational player, realistic developmental project. Would you, as what you've seen at him, would you argue that he could be possibly a tier 2 guy?
Yeah, I would argue that I would put him above Washington.
That's what I'm saying. I would flip these two. I would flip Washington and what you get with Kincaid. Cam Smith is on this list, the cornerback from South Carolina at number 40. And then you've got a couple of safeties with Christopher Smith from Georgia, Jordan Battle from Alabama. All right, how about Jalen Hyatt?
I love Jalen Hyatt. Wide receiver out of Tennessee. He's my number 2 wide receiver. You watch Jalen Hyatt, and he's just making plays down the field. He's a guy that he ran like a 4.40, so it doesn't seem like he's a burner, but you watch the tape, and he runs by people. It's very hard for safeties to be able to keep up with him. Big play threat, playmaker. To me, I thought he caught everything thrown his way. I'm a big fan of Jalen Hyatt.
So would you consider him a 2?
I'd move him up too. Yeah.
I would too. And the final one is Jack Campbell, the linebacker from Iowa.
Thank you, Brian. Krusty's Corner.